Hi guys, and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. And today I'm going to show you how to make this stunning but simple snowman cake. A great alternative to decorate your Christmas cakes this year. It's very easy using simple techniques, and I guide you through everything step by step. There's certain pieces of equipment that I do use to create these effects. You will be able to find links to those in the description below this video. Happy baking everyone, and let's make a start. I'm choosing to use the Elegance set by Sweet Stamp by Amy's Cakes. These are relatively new, but you can use any font cutter to decorate the cake drum. If you choose to use this set, or you choose to invest in these sets, which I would highly recommend for next Christmas, simply remove each of the letters that you need using some tacky fondant or a needle from the actual board before you decorate and cover the cake drum. I will give you a quick breakdown on how to cover the cake drum with these and how to use the embossing set, but you will find a separate tutorial in the description below this video, along with a link to Amy's Cakes official website where you can purchase these from. In order to cover this 12-inch round cake drum, I have exactly 750 grams of the Renshaw's turquoise blue, a rolling pin. These pink things are called spacers, and it just allows me to roll my fondant exactly 5 millimeters thick, some icing sugar, and a sharp knife. Once you have kneaded your fondant so it's lovely, soft and pliable, simply roll it in between your spacers. Don't worry if you don't have any spacers, it's not a necessity, but I do find them really helpful. Keep brushing down your work surface with a small amount of icing sugar and try to keep your fondant in a circular shape. This will just make it easier when we apply it to the cake drum. Now, simply brush some cooled down boiled water onto your cake drum. This will give the fondant something to stick to. Using your rolling pin, lift up the fondant, drape it over your drum, and then simply cut off any excess from the edges. Use a smoother if necessary. For this tutorial, I'm actually decorating a 6-inch round cake. So whatever sized cake you're going to do, I recommend placing a guideline on the drum first. Taking the letters that we previously took out of our set, you now want to place them onto the fondant whilst it is still soft. Take your time and line them all up. I have left room for the T in the it word in the centre, as there is only one T in the set. Once you have placed them on, simply push them gently into your fondant. Once you have done this, I like to push them quite far down, but you want to leave just a slight rim. So using your tweezers, you can then gently pull them back out and it leaves a beautiful indentation. Repeat this for all of your letters. This is the effect you're aiming to achieve, along with a guideline for the size of your cake. Once the fondant has been left overnight to set, we can paint it. Now, I would highly recommend the Sweet Stamp by Amy Cakes Brush Duo set. The brushes in there are extremely fine, and I'm using the Rainbow Dust Metallic Silver to actually paint this, but you can use any colour that you choose. Remember, there is a much more detailed tutorial on how to use the Sweet Stamp by Amy Cakes in the description below this video. You can see how fine that brush actually is, and all you do now is simply fill in your embossed letters with the colour of your choice. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just covering a 6-inch round cake dummy. I'm using the basic equipment, so the rolling pin, the spacers, the smoothers, sharp knife, and some icing sugar. Again, I'm using Renshaw's ready to roll icing. I have 1 kilogram here, but just as a guide, if you're doing a 6-inch round cake that's 4 inches deep, you'll need between 600 and 700 grams of fondant. For an 8-inch round cake that's 4 inches deep, roughly about 800 grams of fondant. Taking 700 grams of my Renshaw's ready to roll icing, I'm simply going to roll this in between my spacers and do my best to keep it a circular shape. If you're doing an 8-inch cake, remember you will need more fondant, on average about 800 grams. Now you just want to smooth down the sides and then cut off any excess fondant. Just to note, if I was working with a real cake, I would have left this in the fridge overnight. It will sweat, but when you first take it out of the fridge, it will allow you to physically lift the cake up like I am here, even tipping it on its side, and place it directly onto your decorated cake drum. In order to create that amazing woolly hat, I'm using the new Marvellous Molds Rib and Cable Knit Simpress. And then for the ribbed border, it's a Simpress mould and it's in the Knit Range collection. It will look outstanding. I'm choosing to use a slightly darker blue. This is the Atlantic Blue by Renshaw's. And we do need to use modelling paste. So I'm going to be turning it into my own homemade modelling paste using a small amount of Tylo powder. Simply add 1 teaspoon of your Tylo powder to your Renshaw's Atlantic Blue fondant and knead it in. This will then be homemade modelling paste. You want to start by using the Rib and Cable Knit Simpress because this is going to be the majority of our woolly hat. I have rolled out some of the Renshaw's Atlantic Blue modelling paste and simply sprinkle your Simpress with some icing sugar. This will help prevent the modelling paste from sticking. Place it over the top and then using your fingers really push down that modelling paste so it picks up on all that intricate detail for the woolly hat. Now using a rolling pin, if you go over the top, you'll be able to get rid of all of the excess fondant around the sides of the Simpress. As soon as you've got rid of the excess modelling paste, you then simply go around the edges of the Simpress and push in the modelling paste so it's at more of an angle, a bit like a backwards angle. Do this for all of the sides and then we will simply be removing this from the Simpress mould. Simply flip your mould upside down and gently peel it away. As you can see, it's coming away relatively easily, but it leaves behind such an amazing effect. I would highly recommend investing in these moulds. They are absolutely fantastic. It's another piece of equipment that just gives your cakes that extra va-va-voom. And as you can see here, we've got that lovely knitted effect. It's modelling paste, so it will keep its shape, but it's still quite flexible in order for us to be able to apply it to our cake. To apply this to the cake, simply brush on some edible glue just directly to the top of the cake where the woolly hat's going to go, and then I'm just going to pick up the modelling paste, place it on there and cut off any excess that goes around the edges of the actual cake. It really is as easy as that. All I'm going to do now is repeat that process, but this time cover the side of the cake. Now simply add another piece, but this time you want to align it up and have it on the side of your actual cake. The next step will be to add the ribbed border mould to the base of the hat. This one adds the perfect finishing touch, and we use it in exactly the same way with our leftover modelling paste. So just repeating the same process as earlier, again the modelling paste goes directly over our Simpress mould. We push it in to pick up on all that intricate detail. Use our rolling pin to take off any excess modelling paste and then gently remove it from our mould. I am going to trim this down slightly just because the rim is quite large for the cake that I am actually using. All I am doing here is cutting this border in half just because the cake is relatively small. Now, if you were doing an 8-inch round cake or a 10-inch round cake, you may not need to cut this in half. I have already applied some edible glue to the modelling paste and the fondant on the cake, but as you can see, it adds the perfect finishing touch. I'm using this piece because it's slightly thicker, and then simply repeat this process but down the sides of the cake as well, so it's all flawless and looks perfect. I'm just going to show you quickly how I did the snowman's eyes. First of all, you need to leave an indentation into the cake, so I'm just using a Russian piping tip for this as it's the correct size. However, I do have a detailed tutorial on how to paint eyes onto cakes or cupcakes, and I will leave a link to this tutorial for you in the description below this video. It's completely free and available on my YouTube channel. So as you can see, I've already started painting. Now I'm going to speed this up just so you get a rough idea, but as mentioned earlier, this is available as a completely separate, very detailed tutorial. The only difference with this one is that I use a fondant for the black pupil instead of actually painting on the black pupil. To add the snowman's nose, I'm just using Renshaw's orange fondant. I have not turned this into modelling paste, and you simply roll it into a cone shape using your hands and then just shape it whilst it's on the cake and stick on there with a small amount of edible glue. For his mouth, I'm actually choosing to use a button mould. Now, you do not have to use a button mould. You can just use simple round dots, but they are another great investment. I'm using the leftover Atlantic blue modelling paste that we made earlier in this tutorial, and you simply just place them directly into your mould. I have greased this with a very small amount of vegetable fat. Turn them upside down and gently pull them out, and then we can apply them to our cake. Again, using a small amount of edible glue, I'm just going to apply these one at a time to create the mouth shape, and then I will apply a couple to the Wooley hat. If you choose to turn this into a bobbled hat like I'm doing, it's very, very easy and you do not need any moulds for it. Start by applying some more edible glue where the bobble's going to go, and just taking some white fondant or a colour of any of your choice. It does not need to be modelling paste. Make sure it's secured both on top of the hat and slightly down the side of the cake. Now, this is a very, very easy technique and you'll be surprised with the effect that it achieves. Taking some very small, sharp scissors that have only ever been used on sugarwork, start cutting into your fondant and voila, that gives you the perfect bobbled hat effect. And there we have it, our finished snowman cake. I've just added a few sprinkles to the base, but as you can see, he's very easy to create. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy baking, and I will be back soon with more new content.